La 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 la. This is my stop. Got to get off. I may go pop. Excuse me. I've got to be direct. If I'm wrong, please correct. You're standing on my neck. You're standing on my neck. You're standing on my neck. La 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 la. La 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 la. So some of you might recognize this as a theme song for Daria. You might also recognize the images on your screen from the show. And that's because we're going to be talking about Daria today. Daria is a show I grew up with in the 90s. It started in 1997. And it was a spin-off of Beavis and Butthead. But creator Mike Judge basically had no input on Daria, and it stood out greatly from his other productions at the time because of it. Where Beavis and Butthead were mindless dolts, the Hills were simple folks. The Morgendorfers were intelligent, well-spoken, and often talked right over the heads of their moody teenage audience. Daria's intelligence gave her insights into the world around her that others saw as depressed. I don't think Daria was depressed. She just wasn't very effusive about life. Not everyone can be as energetic as Quinn is about the mundane Lawndale High. Sorry, I'm skipping through trying to find good shots to stop on. I can't show actual clips because it'll be copyright struck. I bought the DVD set years ago and rewatched the entire series to see if I liked it more or less than I did the decade before. And I still loved it, though something was off. The music. Daria was made by MTV, and they used copyrighted music that had to be edited out and replaced in order for the series to see a DVD release at all. There was an internet group working to create an unofficial Daria collection with the old music, but it likely will never be a legal version, much like a director's cut of Blair Witch Part 2. It exists, and it's good, but it's not legal, so clearly I've never watched it. Beavis and Butthead DVD release had the same problem, and you can get the entire series for about $10 because of it. So I've talked about the legal stuff. Let's talk about the show itself. I'm going to watch every episode and do a short review of each one and compare it to how I remember and how I perceived the show differently as a 37-year-old woman. Before I start watching, let's explore what I remember and what impacted me back then. I remember few episodes. I think the ones that stick out for me are the hurricane episode. It was a musical, and I remember being really excited for the Daria musical episode. And the painting episode, where she and Jane made a statement about eating disorders and they get their speech restricted, so they steal the art before the showing. And Boxing Daria, where Daria finds a box she likes and becomes cat for a while. I know I've seen every episode multiple times, and they will continue and they will come back as I go through them. I remember the characters more than the plot lines. I really disliked the later seasons because it brought in the boyfriend aspect of life that I didn't ever get into, being uninterested in relationships myself. I disliked those episodes so much that I currently cannot remember the name of the man I so severely disliked. That's a strong reaction to a cartoon character. There's others in the show that I disliked, but I still remember. Being like Mr. DiMartino, for instance. I remember him being a very angry, unlikable character. The difference is I remember him. Hold on, I'm going back because he's in this episode. There he is. The guy Daria dated near the end of the series, I only remember that I hated the episodes. It says a lot more about me looking back and knowing that I would never grow to like boys or girls. I spent years experimenting, desperate to find something I liked, only to find relationships make me uncomfortable. And it doesn't fade the way first date jitters might because I'm forcing something that isn't there. TV shows that focus on relationships make me uncomfortable, even at 37, and thankfully, Daria avoided that for the majority of the series run. So let's get into my review of this actual pilot episode. Before watching, I remember this episode pretty well. It's the pilot, it's the first day of school, and the school decides that Daria has low self esteem and needs to take a class to help her. She meets cool girl Jane Lane, and the friendship of the 90s begins. They get themselves out of class, but inadvertently win an award for being the fastest to complete the course, leading to Jane hilariously pretending to break down screaming, and Daria to give a speech that embarrasses Quinn, who's been pretending to not know her all episode. This is an important episode mainly for character introduction. Being the pilot episode, they had to explain and introduce everyone, and this pilot did a pretty good job of encapsulating every character's basic beats. The father's overworked, easily angered state, mom's barely there but trying to be involved, sister so vastly different she seemingly despises Daria. Extra relatable for me, having the exact same feelings as a teen that my sister was practically a stranger living in the same house. The fashion club, Jane, the cool girl, to befriend our protagonist. Even the stereotypes are met here. The jock couple, Kevin and Brittany. The angry Mr. DiMartino, the overly emotional Mr. O'Neill. It's a lot of introduction to pack into 20 minutes, and this episode did it perfectly. Daria's dry humor and intellect cause her to be seen as depressed for much of the series, but she's not actually depressed. She's just not like them. She sees the world differently, and she's at an age where being different isn't really acceptable. That's kind of the whole premise of Daria. I'm going to be doing reviews similar to this for every episode, hopefully. And I'll try to do better on the rest of them. I'm still working on getting the right kind of editing equipment so that I can do these without being so cheaply made.